Joining me now, someone who spent the day with Trump on Tuesday in that courtroom as the former president fought for his future. Florida Congressman Cory Mills. Congressman, really good to have you. I got to tell you, it's really kind of, as a conservative, it's heartwarming, or it's optimistic. I feel good that people like you showed up at court to support Donald Trump. That was fantastic. Tell us about that day, will you? They were off yesterday. They came back today. I specifically want to hear what your thoughts were about Michael Cohen.
Well, thanks for having me on, Eric. Look, it was very clear to me that Michael Cohen is not a credible witness, nor is this court actually being held for its intended purposes. You've got Michael Cohen, who has already been convicted of perjuring himself before Congress. You got a guy who has already been charged for tax evasion. You have a guy who has actually proven and admitted to defrauding the Trump organization, especially when you think about the fact that he was submitting knowingly wrongful invoices, if that was in fact true, with the idea of it being for a legal retainer. So if the idea is that there was falsified business records, I don't see that at all, and I don't see how the prosecution has done a very good job in proving that case, especially as a former business owner. I can tell you, in your general ledger entries, if someone was to invoice for a retainer, it would go under legal expenses, exactly as it was done under the Trump organization. And we all know why we keep multiple lawyers on retainer. One, it's a great insurance policy and a deterrent for frivolous lawsuits. But secondarily, when you do need that specialty, you actually have it on your own retainer that can actually be called in. So you had Stormy Daniels trying to make claims. You had Michael Cohen getting absolutely destroyed in his cross-examination, I think perjuring himself further in many ways. But let's look at the other big piece on this, Eric. You had the judge himself, who should have recused himself, if not removed himself from this case, whose daughter is raising hundreds of millions of dollars to help with the Biden-Harris re-election, help with Adam Schiff, help with others. And you've actually got Michael Cohen, who runs his Mea Culpa podcast, who's selling items on his podcast and his 2 books to continue to try and benefit himself financially. So look, this is a sham indictment, just like it was with the sham impeachment, and it's all being weaponized with the intent of election interference. And on top of that, putting a gag order on the presidential nominee for the Republican Party so he can't defend himself is absolutely absurd. This is lawfare at its finest.
You know what else? Dan Goldman, Congressman, Democrat, admitted that he was, his words, coaching Michael Cohen before his testimony. Dan Goldman also paid upwards of, I believe, $137,000 to Judge Merchan's daughter's firm to help him out, to help him get reelected and such. I mean, the incestuous nature of what's going on there is disgusting.
Right.
Legal incestuous nature, of course. Congressman, listen to Mitt Romney, who had a problem with people like you showing support for the former president and future president. Listen.
There's a level of dignity and decorum that you expect of people who are running for the highest station in the land and going out and prostrating themselves in front of the public to try and apparently curry favor with the person who's our nominee is a little embarrassing.
What do you say to Mittens Romney, who says you prostrated yourself to curry favor? It is really demeaning for someone like him to say that. Your thoughts?
Well, it's not demeaning. It's just Mitt Romney. Look, I don't take anything Mitt Romney says seriously. I mean, when you look at the way the Senate is framed, where you got Mitch McConnell and Chuck Schumer, the 2 Democrats running the Senate, and you've got people like Mitt Romney in there, we wonder why we don't get any bills across the floor into the actual president's Oval Office. Look, I want to back up just a minute, though, Eric, and point out a really obvious fact for the American people. If you were to go out and I said, hey, look, I need you to help pay this for me, and you paid, say, $500. When you come back to me and say, hey, I actually paid this debt for you, what do you think that I would pay you in return? It'd be $500. So this idea that this retainer that exceeded over $400,000 was a payback for hush money that was only valued at $130,000, again, just shows how this is absolutely a farce. I mean, we have become a third-rate banana republic kangaroo court, and we're actually utilizing this in the wrong manner. But look, I say that to go back to the actual point because I didn't want to spend much time on Mitt Romney, who's irrelevant, but I could care less what he has to say.
Final thought. I only have about half a minute or so, sir. You're in the courtroom, the jury, very, very liberal New York, Manhattan, Midtown Manhattan jury. Tell us what your sense of that jury was.
Well, I'll be honest with you. During the prosecution's actual testimony, when they were going forward and asking the questions, Michael Cohen was very, very methodical. He knew the dates. He knew the times. He was reading the emails and the text messaging. He was able to reference the places that he was at. And you could see where the actual jury was really leaning in. During the cross-examination, I give the tremendous amount of credit to Todd Blanche on this. You started to see where his evasion from the actual responses and questions that were being asked started to get a little bit of a scowl out of a couple of the members of the jury. These are the benefits that why we go into these courts and why we see it firsthand is that it doesn't have cameras panning away and a legal pundit coming on or a legal analysis trying to be done. You're able to see the actual jurors' expressions when Michael Cohen goes to respond. And I'll tell you, I'm fairly convinced that there's a few jurors up there who understands that the lack of credibility and the lack of evidence that's not substantiated in any way is going to lead to the acquittal of actual President Donald Trump.
Just need one. Just need one. Congressman Cory Mills, thank you for joining us.
Thank you, Eric.